President.
Senator from North Dakota.
I rise to speak as if in morning business.
Without objection.
Mr. President, last week the U.S. State Department issued its new environmental review for the Keystone XL pipeline. Now, this is the fourth environmental review in nearly 5 years of study. And unsurprisingly, it said the same thing as all the other reports have said. The Keystone XL pipeline will have no significant impact on the environment. Again, the Keystone XL pipeline will have no significant impact on the environment. And ironically, the report indicates that there will be more emissions if you don't build the pipeline than if you do build the pipeline. So let's go through that for just a minute. The Keystone XL pipeline project is perhaps the most thoroughly studied and long-delayed project of its kind in U.S. history. The State Department's favorable finding in this, its most recent report, underscores both the good governmental stewardship, the good environmental stewardship of this project and the need to begin construction without further delay. But the State Department now indicates that it will hold a 45-day comment period and as yet an undefined period of time before it will issue a final environmental impact statement. Then it will conduct an interagency comment period to make its national interest determination. So while we welcome the finding of no significant impact for the fourth time now, we've got yet another indeterminate delay, which runs counter to both public opinion and reasonable due diligence. After 4 environmental reviews and favorable results, the President needs to approve the Keystone XL pipeline project without delay because there remains no excuse not to do it. The argument has been advanced that the oil sands will increase carbon emissions and that failing to build the Keystone XL pipeline will somehow reduce emissions. But the most recent State Department report makes clear that this contention is false. The report actually indicates just the opposite, that if the pipeline is not built from Alberta, Canada to the United States, the oil will still move to market, but it's going to move to China from Canada's west coast. Now, to get the product to China, the oil will be shipped in tankers across the Pacific Ocean to be refined at overseas facilities with weaker environmental standards and more emissions than facilities in the United States. The United States, moreover, will continue to import oil from the Middle East, again on tankers. Factor in the cost of trucking and railing the product to market overland, and the result, contrary to the claims of its opponents, will be more emissions and a less secure distribution system than if, in fact, we build the Keystone XL pipeline project. So let's just look at it. I mean, this is a common sense argument. So the report indicates less emissions if we build the project. Yet it's being held up by extreme activists on the basis that, oh, if we build the pipeline, somehow we get more emissions. That's just not the case. With the pipeline from up in the Edmonton, Hardisty, Alberta, Canada region, the pipeline brings oil down right in the North Dakota, Montana area where it picks up light sweet crude from the Bakken, 100,000 barrels a day. The oil then goes to refineries in Illinois and Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana. So we've got domestic oil from our country, oil from our closest friend and ally, Canada, that we're using here in our refineries for our customers. More energy, more jobs, more economic activity, so we get economic growth, we get revenues to reduce the debt and the deficit without raising taxes. And you know what? It's a national security issue. Instead of having tankers coming from the Middle East, bringing heavy crude in some cases, which in fact has higher emissions than the Canadian oil, we rely on oil from our country and Canada. We get what Americans want is no longer depending on the Middle East for our oil. But if we don't build the pipeline, the oil's still produced. This oil will be produced. But it won't come to the United States. It's going where? It's going to China. And it's going to be sent on tankers over to China, so you've got not only the emissions of those tankers, but it's going to be refined in Chinese refineries, which have worse environmental standards. We have better environmental standards, and we continue to bring in oil from the Middle East. That makes no sense. And that's why 70% of the American people say approve the project. Only 17% have indicated opposition. So this is about President Obama making a decision for the American people rather than for special interest groups. In my home state of North Dakota, like I say, we'll put 100,000 barrels a day of light, sweet Bakken crude into that pipeline. That takes 500 trucks a day off our roads. That's a safety issue. That's an issue for our roads in western North Dakota. Well, to recount briefly, this is a $7 billion high-tech pipeline project that will bring 830,000 barrels of oil a day from Alberta, Canada, to refineries in Oklahoma and the Texas Gulf Coast, as I said, including 100,000 barrels a day of light sweet crude from North Dakota and Montana. As the most recent State Department report confirms, it will create tens of thousands of jobs during the construction phase. It will boost the American economy and raise much-needed revenue for state and local governments at a time when they very much need them, and do it without raising taxes. But perhaps most importantly, it will put our country within striking range of a long-sought goal, and that is true energy security. For the first time in generations, the United States, with its closest friend and ally, Canada, has the capacity to produce more energy than we use, eliminating our reliance on the Middle East and other volatile parts of the world like Venezuela. Yet even after an exhaustive review process, the consent of every state along its route, the backing of a majority of Congress, and the overwhelming support of the American people, the Keystone XL pipeline project continues to languish at the hands of the President of the United States. We again ask, as we have before, that President Obama and Secretary of State Kerry provide us with an actual timeline and some certainty as to when this long-delayed project will finally get approved. The Keystone XL project will provide tens of thousands of jobs and hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue to help us reduce our debt and our deficit, and it will do it with good environmental stewardship. Mr. President, with 70% of the American people in support of the Keystone XL pipeline project and 12 million Americans still out of work, there is no reasonable excuse to delay this project any longer. Thank you, and I yield the floor. I also note the absence of a quorum.